Okay, I'm so glad you guys are here tonight. And we were just chatting before I hit record, and some of the things that Kristen was sharing are just right on with what we're going to talk about tonight. So I love that lead in. We are going to talk about, okay, I got to find my notes because a few things that we need to do each week, I think, and that I don't actually enjoy doing. So I often teach from things that I need to be doing that might be hard for me. And that would be a weekly check-in, like just mentally check in, or a month, we're partway through the month, just to sit and think about some things where we're at. And so I'm going to slowly go through these, and I want you to take a mental check. And if you need to jot some things down, I'll go kind of quickly, but I do want you to think through it. So the first thing is, would you say that you have done the things you said you were going to do so far this month? When you looked at your schedule and you said, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, whether that was your IPA, family things, reaching out to certain people, or team things, have you done those? And second question, are you living out your values in your time each week? Third thing, what were your successes last week or so far this month? Sometimes I have to sit with this one longer because I'm like, oh, I know it didn't go well, which is the next question. But it's important to start with what your successes were. So what are some of the harder things that came up, or things that just didn't go as planned or didn't go the way that you wanted them to? And the last one, I know I'm busting through these, but it should just kind of trigger some things for you. Are you at peace with your results so far this month? Okay, so we're going to go through this and kind of unpack some things within each of those questions, because they all will help us in shaping our time, how we plan our schedules. And I don't want to just come and have my to-do list, right? I'm really good at that. I'm really good at being like, okay, what do I just have to get done? And going through the motions to do it, checking it off. I'm very responsible, right? So I can sometimes just force my way through it, but that also isn't how I want to show up every day, right? I don't want it to just be a thing that we check off our boxes. And so some things that I want to keep in mind as I'm planning, as I'm living my life, as I'm running my business, is first of all, thinking about our values. So going back to that question, and thinking, am I living by my values? And am I using that framework to plan my every week, plan my schedule? And is the way that I want to live and the things I'm valuing, is it actually showing up in my calendar? Am I living that out? Am I being who I want to be in my day, in my time, in my calendar, in my business? Because when you know who you are and what you value, then you'll know what to do. And oftentimes I'll sit down and I think, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm supposed to do today. I have so many things on my task list. Where do I even start? And so often that's our brain. We've talked about this before, that it's wanting to keep us safe. Instead, it's just keeping us stuck. And so going back to, okay, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? What are my values? Who has God called me to be? And then as a result of that, what would I do? So if this is who I want to be, how am I going to show up? So it helps me to pause and really take into account those things, because that is really, really important. And being is way more important than doing, but our being leads to our doing. And so always remembering to go back there. And then I think, okay, start small. Let's do the next right thing, right? We break it down so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming. And then we do those consistent daily, weekly routines. We put them in place so that we can live out our values and who we are. So for example, and I can do this quarterly and then break it down weekly, monthly. For me, I usually do a quarter. And this is some things that I had been working through with my business coach, And some of the things that it was like, these are the big rocks. Like these are the really big things in my life and in my business that need to happen. And one of those things have been more energy for some needs that my kids have, like taking a parenting class for adoptive parents, making sure that their emotional needs are being met, right? So that has taken some more time and resources that maybe a different season of my life has not taken. And so that goes into my calendar and that has to be accounted for. And so I think, well, what kind of business leader do I want to be? I want to be someone who is intentional and who shows up for my team and who checks in, because I love that. I love the personal connection. I want to make sure that I'm building that healthy culture with people, that they feel seen and cared for. Am I putting that into my calendar? I want my customers to know that I value and appreciate them. So I am very intentional about sending a handwritten note at least once a year. More is better for me personally. So I put that in my calendar. Am I leading by example? Like I'm showing up to my IPA, however many times a week. I'm leading my team in power half hours. It's those kinds of things. Like, what do I value? And you have to know what those things are, and then putting it in your calendar. So second, then I continually look back and celebrate what did go well. Because if we don't do this, and you guys know I've harped on this because I don't do it well, and I have to really do it, because if we don't, we miss out on the moments that are going really well now. And I can be so future oriented or looking back at the things that I didn't think went well, that we missed what we have in the present and the people that God has put in our business and in our lives in the very present. And we can get so focused on a goal that we forget like who we're becoming in the process. So continually celebrating those things. And once we've celebrated, then we can look and see, okay, what didn't go well? And even just looking at those things as evaluation, facts, not assigning a story to them, a negative message, the lower level thoughts that we have. Just thinking, okay, well, that didn't go as planned. Maybe, I could do this differently, or I need to try this 3 more times, because sometimes we have to try things multiple times to actually get the things lined up. And it's okay. Like that's how this works. We fail forward. Just looking constantly about the things, and it may be even really good things that we're doing that we might need to say no to for a season, right? And if I think, okay, I really want to empower my team, right? That's a really good thing, but maybe I need to not respond to messages as quickly as I do, because that, instead of empowering, that enables. Maybe I need to stop leading certain things so that other leaders will step up and do it, right? So it can be good things that we're doing, but we just need to take a pause or stop doing them so other people can do that. Okay. Let's see here. So is there something that you didn't get to or you put off? This is a question. This is the thing that Kristen was talking about. And for her, it was like, I succeeded. I had put this thing off for so long and then I did it. But what is that for you? And what feeling and what fear is like underneath that? Like what is making you put the brakes on that activity or reaching out to that person? Are you fearing being rejected? Are you fearing that, you have not done it well in the past, and so you're afraid that you're, not going to do it well this time? Like Terry said, that fear of maybe I don't really have anything to offer. That is something all the time that keeps me from stepping into places to lead, because I think, someone else could do that better. Maybe you got rejected when you did reach out. And so that's playing in your mind and it's making you pause before you reach out to that other person. Like, what is that fear? Again, comes back to rejection. Maybe you logged in this week to your team chat and you saw, so-and-so left the team chat. That really sucks. And it like makes you pause and all of these feelings start to bubble up. Maybe you have comparison creep in. I mean, you guys, social media, we can't get away from that, but maybe you've let it stop you this week from doing something that you know that you needed to do. You're feeling unworthy. And so all of those fears are normal and okay, but really learning to sit with them so that we can push through them, and even not just push, but like allow them to move through us so that we can move forward, and let it not derail us. And this is one of the biggest things in the last 6 months working with a business coach is doing. It's like it feels like counseling. It's constantly thinking, okay, well, what was that feeling? And actually pulling out a feelings chart and something other than frustrated or angry, because there are a lot of feelings, and identifying what those are and thinking, okay, if I keep trying to push them down and push them down, it's like pushing the beach ball under the water until eventually it comes exploding up and hits you in the face and splashes everyone else around you, right? Because you're just resisting and resisting. Instead, she's like, did you know it only takes about 90 seconds for a feeling to move through your body? But if you continue to resist it and resist it, it could actually take weeks. But if we were just to sit and say, okay, this is okay, I'm going to let this feeling, can feel like the burning in my cheeks when I feel rejected, or the, like someone sitting on my chest. I actually think, where do I feel this in my body? And how am I going to sit in it and then move through it so that I can get to the other side, so that I can move through those thoughts, the lower level thoughts that Kelly was talking about last week, to the higher level thinking, like how, and going back to, how do I want to show up? So I feel rejected. Okay, that's all right. It's okay to feel that way, but how do I want to show up, even in the midst of that? Because I would tell my team, just keep showing up. It's okay. You can show up and feel like, man, I just got rejected this week, but keep showing up and move through it. Because if we don't, it's going to derail us in doing those things that we've scheduled in our week and that we really want to do. And so just be okay with those things. And that's one of the things I want you to do even the next week, is just when those things come up or you're putting things off, think, what am I avoiding, or what feeling is coming up for me that is keeping me from this activity that I really want to do. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have heard this so often, our mismanaged time is a sign of a mismanaged mind, right? Like it all just goes hand in hand. And we could come into these Sunday night training times and give you just strategy, right? But really 20% of our business is strategy and 80% is mindset. And that goes into absolutely everything. But maybe you do need to rethink. You're like, oh, that system isn't working for me. And even Kristen thinking, I was really good, when you get people started and you're like, day 2, you check in, day, 6, you're checking in. But then after a while, it's true. We're like, oh my goodness, I haven't checked in with that person. It's been 6 months. Oh my gosh, I've gone back to this message and I was like, oh, holy cow, that's been a really long time. So maybe there's a system that we do need to like really dial in, right? We'll learn that as we go and to do those things. But oftentimes it is a mindset that might be keeping us from it and we're just not even aware of it. So thinking about how we organize our time, putting everything in a time slot. That was another thing that we did in our time management coaching course, and Terry can attest to that. She was like, put everything on there. Like cooking dinner, it needs to have its time slot. Oftentimes we don't even put it in our calendar, so then we just schedule all the way over the top of it, and then we have reached like all of our margins, there's none left, and we can't figure out why we're just rushing from one thing to another. And it's because we haven't given ourselves enough of the time slots that we need for doing all the daily things. She's like, it's like when you organize your house, you don't put the socks in the silverware drawer. You know where the socks go, but when we don't have enough margins or when we're not scheduling enough time, we end up with socks in our silverware drawer. And so many of you guys work 9 to 5 jobs, or you have kids at home, and that also is a full-time job. And so we have to be thinking, where do things go? Do I have good boundaries? And another thing that we say in this business is you can work in the nooks and crannies of your lives, which you can, and is true, and is one of the great things about this business. And also, if we do that for a really long extended period of time, it feels like we never stop working. And it's like going to the beach for an extended period of time and you come home with sand in all the nooks and crannies, and it does not feel good. Something that was a really good thing has turned into a really bad thing. And so thinking, how do I need to be really good about managing my time so that it doesn't become painful? And the mindset that, we take into that matters. And even as I was processing this weekend, I was off social media for the majority of it. And I was thinking, I feel behind, like I didn't post, or I haven't thought through my content like I normally do. It was just so full. And that can be a lie and a fear as well, that, oh my gosh, now I'm behind. And that panic starts to set in, and then the hustle mindset. And if I just think, no, I lived by my values. I did these really valuable things with family and friends and celebrations. And that is who I want to be. And that is okay. And so I'm not behind. I am okay. I have plenty of time. I still can have an abundance mindset going into this week, having lived a really great weekend. So those are some of the things. All right. Make sure I'm not missing a question. Okay, so here is something. Is there a new step of courage I need to take? Okay, one of the things that I really do want to talk about at another training is that, are there things that we need to step outside of, even outside of social media, in a way to connect with other people, or to use maybe a platform we have or our giftings? And maybe some of you do, like maybe that is a YouTube channel. That is the second biggest search engine next to Google. People go to YouTube to learn things. So for me, I'm like, I really need to get back on my YouTube channel, but there is something in me, there's a fear, there's a lie that is keeping me from doing it. Okay. And so I'm even sitting with that one. I've been procrastinating. Is it starting a blog or going back to a blog? Is it maybe doing a podcast? Is it hosting an event? Is it hiring a coach? Is it just starting a new challenge? Is it saying to your leader that you're on their team page and saying, hey, I'd love to lead this? Like, what is it for you that's a step of courage that you can go take either this week or in the near future? And the last question is, am I at peace with my results so far? And if you're anything like me, the answer to this is usually no. And that's because I'm really self-critical and I want to be further ahead than where I am. I want my results faster. I'm never quite enough. And yet there's some days when I'm like, oh man, this is so amazing where I'm at. I'm totally content and at peace. But most of the time, there's something in me that's like, oh, it's just not quite enough. And again, that's rooted in a whole nother host of lies and fears. But one of the ways that my coach has helped me to really view it differently and challenge me to look at it differently is going back to that. Well, am I prioritizing things according to my values? And if so, then I can be at peace with what I'm doing with my time. How am I defining my success? It's not only in numbers. Success is not just found in numbers. And am I doing the work consistently, knowing that in time it will produce a harvest? I know I'm consistent. I know I'm showing up. I'm doing these things, which can give me peace that it will come to fruition, right? And we are always in charge of our choices. And Kelly talked about this last week. We can sometimes feel like things come up, life happens. It's like, oh, I didn't have a choice about this, or this happened and I had to do this. But we always have a choice. Like, I still feel like sometimes there's this 1% where I feel like I don't have a choice. But mostly we do not. We always have a choice to do it or not to do it. And so the question is, do I like the reason I made the choice? And if yes, then that should bring peace, even if the results are different than what I had hoped for, right? So I have to think, okay, do I like the reason that I made that choice? Even this weekend, when I had all these activities that piled up, and then I started to feel behind, and I wouldn't necessarily have planned all those things. They kind of got planned in the same weekend, but I still chose to say yes to those things. And I loved my reason for why I said yes to those things. I love my reason for why I'm signing up for this parenting class, even though it's going to take an extra 2 hours out of my Monday, where I usually have work time, but I love my reason for that. And so thinking, do I love that reason? And then being okay with the results that might come and the peace that that can bring, knowing that I'm living by my values. And that plays into our businesses so much, you guys. And if I find I don't actually like the reason, and I certainly didn't like the result that it produced, then I need to do some tweaking, right? And that's okay. So we go back and we think, I didn't like that, so I'm going to do it differently this next time. So as you're going through this next week and you're planning your time, plan to show up according to who you want to be. How do you want to show up? And then show up as her. Show up as the person that is going to live out your values and how you're wired and how you're gifted, and really own it. And then if there are any socks in your silverware drawer, make some better boundaries. Do some rearranging so that they aren't there. I would encourage you to plan your content. When I do this, even if I have some ideas like, okay, these are 4 things that I'm definitely going to talk about this week, and make sure that they are in your niche. They are within the, the bounds of what you normally talk about. What do people come to your social media for? For me, I mostly talk about faith, family, and health. And now my gray hair, but that's intermingled in all of that. But make sure that you're being intentional. Otherwise, we just fly by the seat of our pants, and we don't want to do that. And then plan your connections. So before you head into Monday, write down the people that you really want to connect with this week. And I want to encourage you to make a plan with someone outside of social media that you're going to connect with. Because again, we have to be doing things outside of social media. It is such an awesome thing, and I love that we have it. But then when you have those days when it shuts down for 5 hours and we do not own this platform, we don't own Facebook, we don't own Instagram, and if in an instant, your account was gone, we've got to be doing things outside of that as well. So utilizing it when we have it, but also be building outside of social media. I think it's really important. So as you're thinking through this next week, to be really aware of your thoughts, especially if something comes up and you're feeling overwhelmed, or you are wanting to procrastinate, or you had scheduled something and you sit down to do it and you're like, I'm just going to move that to tomorrow. Really sit with it and ask yourself, why? Why am I going to move that? Like, what is the reason? And sometimes it's okay. You can move it to tomorrow. But if there's something deeper, really sit with it so that you know what fear is driving your planning, or what fear is keeping you in inaction. And then work through it till you get to the other side of it. And it's ongoing, you guys. I've been doing this 6 years and I'm still doing the hard work of that. So let your character and who you want to be drive your calendar and your commitment to show up and to live it out, and have the courage to show up and live it out in the good and the bad. And that is quite honestly what makes it successful every single week. So I hope that you can take those things into your week and that there's something helpful in there for you guys. But before we end, are there any questions or thoughts that came up?
That was really good. I've been thinking about a girl at church to get together with in person, or ask to hang out at the park with the kids or go do coffee or something. Because I honestly think she'd be a really great, she already kind of has a small Instagram influencer account. But then part of me is okay, do we just go and hang out? Or when I ask her to go hang out, do I just say, hey, I would love to also talk to you about something? Or do we just see if it comes up? I have all those kind of, what do I do? I don't know how to approach this. I mean, we don't hang out a lot. So I'm maybe we just go and we just hang out and just get to know each other more and just see if it comes up, or I don't know.
Yeah, I love that. Just get to know her and see where that goes. I love it. Connection is such a big deal. So. Anything else? Kristen, you look like you were going to say one last thing. All right, you guys, thanks for showing up tonight. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we will see you either throughout the week at the Power Half Hours or next Sunday night. Bye, guys.